which meant that that was the first of 2 unexpected breaks, you could say. 1 to a bone and 1 from videos. I'm really glad that May is behind us. So while I work out how this talking to the camera thing works again, how are you guys? Better than me, I hope. Okay, let's just roll the thing. It's Leanne and welcome back to another video. Or should I say super welcome back. Hallelujah, there's a new video? Where the hell have you been, girl? Well, unfortunately the title really isn't clickbait. Just previous to the big ouchie, everything was going great. I had just filmed for you a second half of the year releases video. That is still coming up, albeit we have passed some of the dates at the beginning. I was halfway through filming 2 really fun vlogs and it was the day before I was going to film the rest of my sit-down content for the month. Then the tragedy struck. And the tragedy took the form of my friend's staircase, which I managed somehow to miss the last 3 steps off. To be perfectly honest, I still don't know whether I slipped because I did have like little silky socks on and it was carpet, or whether because it was kind of dark at the bottom of the stairs, I literally just mistook the 3rd step up for the last step, which is made more plausible by the fact that I had my bag and my coat at the bottom of the stairs. So I don't know whether my brain genuinely just interpreted that as the bottom, but either way, I confidently sailed off that 3rd step straight down onto my foot and braced ankle, which then proceeded to stop being a foot and ankle with any integrity. I am going to pop a little like medical details trigger warning up on the screen for you guys. If you don't want any more details about this, just mute me right now and just skip until it's gone. Trust me, coming from one of your resident chronic illness queens, I know that we are not all in the same position all the time to listen to medical details. And really, if you don't want the gossip, you've already heard the story. The ankle is broke, it sucks. But for those of you who do want the grim tea, everything happened so fast, so all of this is me piecing it back together. But I landed on the ankle and I was immediately aware that it had stopped being an ankle, but I didn't at the time know what I had done. As soon as I landed, I heard a snapping noise, but I was kind of convincing myself in my head that what I had actually done was just step really hard onto the laminate flooring rather than the noise coming from inside my body. Because after about 30 seconds of nothing, like absolutely nothing, I assume because my body was just kind of in shock, the pain hit and I was fairly sure almost immediately that I had done some serious damage. So my wonderful friend Jill, who I'd had such a lovely day with, we had worked together, we'd had a dance in the kitchen, we'd had a big picky dinner, just a really sad end to the night. Jill called an ambulance and unfortunately that night in Edinburgh there were massive flash floods, and so we waited many hours for an ambulance, during which time my foot and ankle went from being foot and ankle shaped to being something like an overstuffed balloon. Some parts of lying there on the floor just waiting for somebody to come save me were hideous, and other parts of it quite honestly were hilarious. Like, Jill and I have a good time. It was good crack even if it was awful. So by the time that I got to the hospital, the emergency room was absolutely packed. Like wall-to-wall people, which was a real shame because your gal needed a pee really bad and had to work out how single-handedly to move from a bed to a commode with only one leg. But you don't think you came to my channel for glamour, do you? So yes, there I was. This happened at about 10:30 at night and I think I got my x-rays at about 4:30 in the morning. And initially the radiographer was like, okay look, this isn't gonna sound good because it's kind of not, but also it's not the end of the world, okay? And I was like, sure! Anything you say. And she proceeded to tell me that essentially what I had done was folded my ankle at a 45-degree angle, so I'd literally like cracking the spine of a book, which was as horrible news to me as it was to you right then. We got discharged at like 6:30 in the morning. I was on non-weight bearing crutches, which are these things, the ones that like go under your armpits and you hold on and put all your pressure through here. And yeah, girl doesn't have good wrists. So learning to push all of my big bitch body weight up on these, a bad time was had by all, and yes, I have fallen twice on these. Once inside on the first day that I was back, and once when I went back to be fitted with the moon boot thing. They're on a mission to take me down. Yeah, so I also fell outside on the pavement between my front door and the front gate, and both times I have been very lucky not to hit my head, because it transpired once the actual orthopaedic team took a look at my x-rays that I had quite badly, in fact, broken my ankle. And I had also fractured my foot. Never let it be said that your gal doesn't do the most. I will now show you what the bruising looked like when I got admitted to the emergency room, what the bruising looked like by the time I woke up in the morning, and what the bruising looked like just yesterday. It looks like a corpse. It looks like I borrowed it from an extra on The Walking Dead. It has not been fun and games around these here parts, and it has taken me until yesterday to properly get a setup at my desk which works for me to be able to do anything. So underneath the table right now, my leg is propped up on like a stool and 2 cushions and a box underneath my desk. But we're working with it because it's what we've got. And sadly, as you can see, we're also working with completely natural lighting in this video because I can't actually set up my ring light or my box lights or anything else. I can only move me from room to room. My phone has spent a real long time in my bra. So just know that if I was watching your booktube video, you were probably in my boobs. So what is the prognosis like both for my channel and also for my ankle? Well, for my channel, from here on out, things should be fine. I am able to sit here and at least film the video. I should be back to my regularly scheduled programming. As for my ankle, we're now on week 3 of week 6 before the bones have actually like knitted together again. And then between week 6 and week 12, I should be able to walk about without the moon boot on it. Weirdly, apparently with ankles, it actually helps if you put weight on it quicker. So although it does kind of feel like I'm trying to fold a balloon in half to make a balloon ankle for myself, which as you can imagine hurts quite a lot. I am doing my absolute best. In fact, I might be doing a little bit too much, let's be perfectly honest, because I don't like being helpless, and I feel quite helpless right now. So yeah, in short, that's the saga of the ankle. Let's go on to like the other part of this video, right? The bit with the actual fun content with the books and stuff. So yes, as the title suggests, the rest of this video is actually my June TBR and a much overdue update on the stats on my bingo board from hell, because we haven't actually done that in like a minute, and it's now the second half of the year. I'm going to be doing mid-year stats really soon, and I kind of need to know the numbers that I'm working with. So unfortunately, along with the pain of the catastrophic ankle thing came a lot of really like broken concentration. Because I couldn't sit in one place for big spans of time, it meant that my reading became really choppy, and in fact in the first week of it I wasn't reading at all. So that meant that for the latter half of May my reading really slowed down, which means that I haven't made quite as much progress on some of the goals on my bingo board as I would have hoped. For those of you who are new here, I started this project in January. This is the second year that I'm doing it, and this bingo board addresses issues with my reading which I would like to fix. So as you can see, the audiobook square is the only square that I have actually completed once. I've already listened to 10 audiobooks this year, and so it was sitting with a little completed stamp and a 1 in there. I have listened to Lair of Dreams, The Raven Boys, The Dream Thieves, Royal Assassin, and A Series of Unfortunate Events 1 and 2, which means that we are now back up to 7 in this box. Next up we have everybody's favourite square, my read 60% of your 2024 purchases square. I have read The Examiner, Deadweight, Prostitute Laundry, and Learning to Think, which means that I am now on 28%. However, for this point in the year, I was really hoping that my percentage would be sitting at an even 30, so that I have another 6 months to read the other 30%. But as we know, this percentage fluctuates with the number of books that I am bringing into my house, so you know what you gal's going to be focusing on in June, right? Then next up we have rereads. I was sitting at 9 in this box, so very nearly completed. 2024 is apparently the year of rereads for me. This feels to be an issue that I have sorted. So since last time I reread Wind in the Willows, Lair of Dreams, and again A Series of Unfortunate Events 1 and 2, which now means that I have completed this square off. A round of applause for me. And we are sitting at a hot 3 in the box, so we're already off to the races. Now unfortunately, when I complete these squares off, my actual reward for it is to get to do something nice with lovely spouse Harry. But there are not very many nice things that I can do at the moment, so we're just gonna have to save that up for later. There are a couple of squares where there haven't been any movement. My TBR Veterans is one of those, and the other one is my series tracker. We'll talk about that later. And jump right on to my non-fiction square. We were sitting at 5 in this square, and since then I have read Prostitute Laundry, Deadweight and Learning to Think, which brings me up to a solid 8. I'm quite surprised, given how quickly I was getting through non-fictions in 2023, that this number isn't like flying higher than this, but nevertheless, here we are. And then finally I have Rainy Day books. I was sitting at 5 in here, and since then I have read The Raven Boys and The Dream Thieves, which takes me up to 7. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you will have spotted that while I didn't update a couple of those because there was just no movement in them, there are 2 that I haven't mentioned the last couple of times that I have done an update on this bingo board. Those 2 squares are my random emoji reads and my BFFs control my TBR. Now, these were the only 2 squares on my bingo board that didn't have any kind of target on them. They don't have like a get to 10, get to 15, get to 20 books. They're just literally do them as many times as you can / as you like. Which you think I would have worked out by now does not work for my ADHD. This is not a deadline, this is not a tangible, meetable goal. This is not a thing that I have to do. Therefore, I will never do it. So what does this mean? Well, just like last year when I got rid of the entire bottom row of my bingo board and replaced it with things that were working for me, I am going to be replacing both of these boxes the next time that you see this bingo board. I'm still tossing around ideas of what I want to change them to, so of course if you have a suggestion then leave that down in the comments. But I am not a fan of keeping around things which don't serve you anymore just because you had decided previously that they were a good idea. Everybody is allowed to change and change their minds. And my mind apparently has changed itself. But what does that mean for the books that I am going to be reading in June? Well, obviously there were a couple of books that I didn't get to in May which are now top of my priority list for June, and those books are Dark Age by Pierce Brown. This is the 3rd time that we have seen this on a TBR this year, which I'm real mad about because this series is one of my favourite series in the entire world. I have been halfway through this book since the end of April when I had to put it down for a few other commitments, and I promised Becca that I was going to finish it for the end of May so that she could watch me cry in real time, and then I threw myself down some stairs and I didn't do that. But I need to fulfill my commitment on this one so that I can cry, Becca can have her emotional release, and I can finally move on to Lightbringer, which is the last published book in this series. So yeah, Dark Age is right up there at the top of my priority list, and so also is finishing the Raven Boys series by Maggie Stiefvater. As you saw from my bingo board, this is a rainy day series for me. It's a series that's been sitting on my shelves for so long. So long. I think the first book in this series was originally published in like 2012, and although I have unhauled it and repurchased it since then, shut up, I don't want to talk about it. Finally, for whatever reason, I got the motivation up and I absolutely tore through the first 2 books, like whew, the fastest I have moved since the crutches entered my life, let me tell you. If you have never heard of the Raven Boys series by Maggie Stiefvater before then, you are in for a treat, especially if you like Lockwood and Co. So essentially the Raven Boys is about Blue. She is a girl who is growing up in a family of women who are all psychic. But Blue herself doesn't have any particular powers to speak of and is semi-depressed about this fact. The only thing that she's good at is kind of like acting as a battery to other people's psychic abilities, which means that other people's abilities are amplified when she is around. And so one night she is doing this exact thing. She is standing in a graveyard as a procession of the soon-to-be dead are walking past, helping her aunts to write down their names so that when people come and have their fortunes read, they can have an honest answer as to when they're gonna go. And for the first time ever, a ghost speaks directly to Blue. That ghost's name is Gansey, and Gansey is a teen who goes to the nearby Aglenby Academy. Aglenby Academy is an extremely prestigious private school, and the emblem is a raven. Therefore, the kids who go there are called the Raven Boys, and the Raven Boys are people that Blue would absolutely never normally associate with because they have a really hideous reputation in the town as just being like really privileged, really rude, really snobby. But when Gansey and a group of his fellow Raven Boys walk into the diner that Blue works at, she realises that maybe fate is actually at work and maybe she needs to speak to Gansey. The series is like Ghosts meets Portal Fantasy meets Celtic Legends meets Ley Lines. Honestly, the angst in this series is so much. There are 2 other books left in the original series of this, and then Maggie Stiefvater released a trilogy of books which follows one of the characters from this series on into adulthood, I think, at least college. And so if the series ends in a good place, I will be carrying on to pick those books up ASAP. And then the last things that are high up on my priority list that came from my May TBR are the last couple of books in the Miss Marple series. As I said in my May TBR video, this is a series that I just don't want to end. I have like such a deep emotional attachment to it, and knowing that there are no longer going to be any new Miss Marple books for me to read makes me really, really sad. And before y'all say it, I will not be taking part in reading any authorised reinventions of Marple or Poirot that have come out in the last couple of years, because your gal has sampled a few of them and I hate them. Not just dislike, but actively hate. So as much as I would love to, those are not on the menu for me, and that means that these books will be getting finished in June. Watch this space, hold me to this. I have to actually finish books from my series tracker. So those are all those books that have fallen off of my May TBR onto my June TBR, but there are quite a few unique reads that I really want to get through in June. First of all, I would like to carry on with the Green Creek Saga by TJ Klune. I read Ravensong either at the end of April or the start of May, I can't remember now. And the 3rd book just recently popped through my door, so not only would this be a book off of my series tracker, but this would also be a book off of my 2024 acquisition spreadsheet. So in case you haven't heard of the Green Creek Saga before, this is one of TJ Klune's older series which is just being republished in these beautiful hardback editions. And look, I'm going to be perfectly straight up with you guys. There is a reason that you haven't seen the Green Creek Saga appear on either my tops or bottoms for the last couple of months, and that's because these books are neither for me. They're kind of just mid. And again, normally for me, when books just come in at about 3 or 3.5 stars, that's not a series that I would continue, but for some reason there is just something about it that's compelling me to finish. So Too Long Didn't Read version, I am going to continue on with this story until it's finished, but then you might very well see the hardbacks of it popping up on my Vinted. So the Green Creek Saga is about Ox. He is abandoned in the house by his abusive father, but after being abandoned and feeling like there's no place that's ever going to accept him and there's no place that he's ever going to belong, Ox ends up kind of growing up in the midst of the Bennett family, who are a new family who just moved in down the street from him, who just happen to be a werewolf pack. These books kind of fall into the urban fantasy, paranormal, fated mates kind of storyline. And like I say, I'm not sure exactly what it is that's keeping me reading, but I do really love Ox. He's just like a normal, average person who's been dropped into this very weird situation and is trying to make the best of it with what he has. And there's something just quite appealing about that. So it'll be interesting to see what I think about this series in the end, but then also, yeah, it will get it off my series tracker. So let's just continue on with that. And in the spirit of carrying on with series, I have somehow started a reread of A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snickett. This is entirely the fault of hospital waiting times, because I didn't expect to be in the hospital and the only thing that I had was my phone, and my library app absolutely saved me. I desperately needed something for my brain to do, and so I searched on my library app for popular short books, which, as you guys know, is absolutely not a thing that I would normally do. Short books, what are they? I don't know them. But this was what my brain was saying. If we can just accomplish one thing this night that's not breaking your ankle. The Series of Unfortunate Event books popped up at the top, and I was like, oh my god, it has been such a long time since I read them. They are super short, they're super easy to read, and so I indulged myself in the first 2 books of that during that experience. Last time I read this series was in 2014, and I was like happily sitting there going, oh, that was a little while ago, let me do the math. I should not have done the math. Now, it seems to me that most of you will absolutely know what A Series of Unfortunate Events is, but just in case somehow the entire phenomenon has missed you, A Series of Unfortunate Events is about the Baudelaire children. They are very quickly in the very first book made orphans, but they have a massive massive fortune, and the man who is there as the executor of that fortune is just a guy who works for a bank. So he tries his best to place them with foster families that he thinks will genuinely look after them well. In their first foster placement, they meet an extremely abusive, extremely terrifying man named Count Olaf, who is solely there to get their money. These are extremely dark middle grade books, and actually they deal with some really interesting topics, some like quite hard hitting topics. There are a few things and a few attitudes which aren't so great in this series, and which I mostly think come from, you know, the time that they were written in. But nevertheless, I have a massive nostalgia for this series, and it was so comforting to pick it up. But of course, starting a reread of any series does mean that it automatically moves back onto my series tracker as an active series, and I would really prefer a 13 book series, even if they are tiny middle grade books. Do not stay there for very long. This TBR is all over the place. Now you will notice that this is not nearly as many books as I would normally put on a TBR or get through in a month these days, and that does not mean that these are the only books that I'm going to be making myself read this month, because there are several books on both of those vlogs that I'm filming still to be read. I just don't really want to tell you guys about them right now. I want to finish them up and give them to you as completed projects. So don't worry, there are many more actually like very on brand books on my TBR. But because May was just such a shit show, I want June to be a month where I can just pick up whatever the hell I want, as long as I am, you know, accountably filling in squares on my bingo board with them. So the final two books I am going to be picking up are Assassin's Quest for the Fits Along. In case you're new here, the Fits Along is a complete Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb read along that I am hosting myself. We are reading one book every 2 months because they are chunkers, and June is the second of the 2 months allotted for Assassin's Quest, so I need to finish reading that one. The live show I think will be right at the very beginning of July, but I will firm up a date and get it to you guys very, very soon. And then of course we have got the next two books in Around the Disc in 800 Days, which is a complete Terry Pratchett's Discworld read along that myself and my lovely friend Kirsty from Melbs Reads are hosting. We are now a year and a half into this. I feel like I say this every TBR, but it's just so boggling to me that I've managed to stick with a project for so long. Consistency? Who is she? Also never met her. Next two books in the Discworld series to read, and genuinely I have absolutely no idea what they are. You know what they are now because you've seen them on screen, but I can't remember. Everything has just gone a little bit to pot at this point. But the very, very last thing that I want to tell you guys about is a new Patreon readathon that I have just launched, because for the next 6 months, every month I'm going to be reading a book for that readathon. So if you're new to my channel, my Patreon is entirely based around the little, slightly haunted Scottish town of Loch Fern, and I have just launched the first round of the Loch Fern readathon, which is a 6-month readathon wherein we travel around this charming little map and collect locations for our stamp cards. There are only 6 spaces on this stamp card for round 1, but there are over 11 locations on the map, and every one of those locations has 3 prompts and then a bonus prompt, all of which earn points throughout the year. And the whole idea is that all of the prompts that are available for all of these locations will help my patrons to get through their owned physical TBR. Of course you can definitely buy books to go with the prompts if you want to, but it is absolutely not necessary. It's possible to finish all 6 of the locations on this just by reading books that you already own, which is stellar because that is a hole that many of us are in. So I have no idea what the first location is that I am going to visit. It may very well be the creepy old manse. Maybe it's going to be the loch itself. Who knows? Either way, if you would like to join in with this readathon, we have literally just dropped the prompts. Everybody is scrabbling to work out what their first location is going to be. So you can get more information about that down below on Patreon. And of course, points win prizes. So at the end of the year, prizes will be totaled up, and we have bookmarks, we have stickers, we have free books. It's going to be a lot of fun time. So yeah, that's also a commitment which is on my plate for June. So please wish me luck. And now my neighbour has started cutting long planks of wood in their front garden, so I think this is a perfect time to end this video. Sorry that it's been a bit of a frenetic TBR, it's definitely a bit of a weird TBR for me. I hope you enjoyed the story about the ankle far more than I enjoyed actually creating the story of the ankle. If you have got this far through the video, then leave me something ankle related down below. Maybe a foot or a leg, some crutches or an ambulance, or maybe just your face when you heard the description. As always, I would love to hear what is top priority for your June TBR. Please tell me about that down below. And as always, if you have any recommendations of any books that I should read based on any of the books that I'm going to be reading this month, or based on any of the squares on my bingo board which desperately need filling in and completing, then please also tell me about that down below, and I will be back to you with your regularly scheduled programming in my next video. So if you are new here and you would like to know how long it takes my ankle to be better and how long it takes my reading to go back to normal, then please hit that subscribe button down below. And if you are a regular viewer, welcome back. Thank you for waiting for me. Please hit that like button on your way out the door because it really does help my channel, and I will speak to you guys super soon. Bye!